We should be live now. Hi, everyone. I am here
Hello.
with Randy, and we are going to discuss lists today because you got two tournaments coming up. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. So Siege of Augusta and then Warzone Atlanta coming up this winter spring, I guess.
Yeah. So Siege is January the 17th, I believe, and then Warzone is like the first week of February.
Yeah. Are you wanting to bring the same list to both tournaments?
Well, so the one I bring to Siege will probably be the one I bring to Warzone Atlanta,
Hmm?
albeit a few changes. But I'm kind of wanting to see how it performs at Siege, and then I still have an opportunity to make a few changes.
Yeah, because the lists are due for Atlanta after Siege actually finishes, right?
Right. Yep.
Right. Okay, so you can change up if there's something you don't like. Right.
Hmm.
Um, by the way, I think this is a really good idea that you sort of have a test of your list and you play the list several times just for other people, not necessarily randomly, that you test out your list multiple times. Don't just play it once and then go and play another army and whatever. Like test your stuff through and adjust every time. I like this approach. Right, so you've made two lists for us that we can go and
Right.
see through, and I'll just share my screen so we can actually see the lists as we talk. And here we go. So the list should be here. Nope. So here we have one list, right?
Right.
This is your Gurkha version of the list. Talk us through it.
Yep. So, like I've got the old inexperienced lieutenant, but I'm in this. I've got two squads of Gurkhas here. They're both
Mm,
8 man. Didn't bring any extra. Really couldn't afford to bring it like a light machine gun. Um, and then I've got a company commander,
mm,
inexperienced, because I'm going to probably put him in the scout car protecting. And then the anti-tank rifle team. Then I've got I got two white scout cars.
mm.
Actually, these are going to transport the Gurkhas into action. So I'm going to
With
use armored.
HMGs on top. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So that should allow them to move up without getting any damage other than pins.
should, because it's a
And
seven
in the
plus.
second platoon,
You are
I've
open
got
top, so you'll at least
yeah,
be pinned. But yeah,
yeah, yeah. And in the second platoon, pretty much the same thing. I've got an SMG in one of them because I had a few points left over.
hmm?
Yeah, another anti-tank rifle. And then here I have the recce rule for two vehicles. I have an LVT
Hmm?
with the autocannon and two MMGs, and
Yeah,
a Jeep for I have a Piat somewhere in my list, and I
mm,
want the recce so that I can survive moving up with that Piat inside of it.
yeah. And by the way, if we can find the points, I would make this LVT into a regular one, just because you're going to move most of the time, and you want to be hidden with those MMGs. But I'm not sure where to find the points yet. But we will try.
Yeah. So then I have armored platoon with two Humpers.
Yeah. Those are
Yeah.
good, really good. I just I'm sitting here painting mine right now and finishing up the last touches and decaling and all of that. Love 'em to bits.
There's another version of that that's not bad either, and that's the Fox.
Yep.
It has a heavy machine gun and a medium machine gun on it.
Mm. And then we have a heavy weapons platoon.
Heavy weapons platoon, and here comes some mortars.
Yep.
So now I may have made a little bit of an error here. So there's no forward artillery observers in this list
Mm.
because I didn't think they'd go well with the Gurkhas because I'm going
Mm.
to be pushing them up really fast, and I don't want bombardments coming in on top of them.
Okay.
And I was going to I probably need to bring these inexperienced in this
Yeah.
list.
Well, at least you can save a few points there and see if we can scrape together enough to upgrade your LVT to regular for that.
Yeah.
And then an anti-tank rifle team as the last one. I like it.
Yeah. That's a Piat actually.
Okay.
So
Oh yeah.
yeah, so
Sorry. Yeah.
that's what'll ride in the Jeep, and then you really got to get that Piat into point blank for
Yeah.
it to really do something.
Yeah. Do you think you need the 21 order dice?
Yes. Yeah, I played a game this past weekend, and one guy brought a German list with
Mm.
16 order dice, and I had
Yep.
24, and I
Mm.
just crushed it. I mean, he
Okay.
just was back-footed the whole game.
Yeah. So it's really nice to have that extra order dice compared to your opponents, right?
Yeah.
I have two places where I could possibly cut this list if we're just looking for points right now, which is the first thing I always do when I look at a list, right? To see if I can save a few points. The company commander, do you really need him? Yes, he will make sure that the Gurkhas can charge, but he's also 42 points plus whatever else you're transporting him in, right? So that's one place where we could potentially cut a few points. We could also cut the anti-tank rifle team, but it's really nice to have. Um, yeah. Does this Jeep need recce, do you think?
So in order to get it close, sometimes you have to like late round push it up into
Mm.
danger,
Mm.
and then hopefully you don't get shot at. But then if you do, you can always advance forward and
Yep.
then move out.
Yep.
So it is kind of expensive to turn that anti-tank team into a 24-point Jeep and a 40-point Piat.
Yeah, because it's 24 points for the inexperienced Jeep and the recce rule on it. I think that's too much. I think you're paying too much for that. So that is also one place where you could potentially save a few points. Like you could even make the Jeep just a regular Jeep, put it in one of your rifle platoons, and then have it without the recce.
Yeah.
Because when you're moving up, you're going to move into a hail of fire. The enemy is on ambush anyway. So even though you have recce, you're going to die if that's the case. If not, then do you really need it because you're moving up and then unloading that Piat? So I don't think you're going to need recce on that. So that would be
Yeah.
also a place where you could save a few points, maybe enough to push the LBT into regular, and that is where I would spend my points. I would spend it making this regular because that's a light autocannon regular and MMGs regular. And if you even have enough, I would even give it the front facing hole mounted MMG as well. So you could split fire 4 ways, right? Um, that's the only thing I maybe would look at changing for this list. This is a really nice list, and you know it, Randy, don't you?
I've been wanting to get my Gurkhas back into action.
Yeah. Yeah, the Humbers are really great. I think the LVT supplements them really nicely because it's also got recce and also has the light autocannon and MMG. So it's a really nice combination, and you could fill up that LVT with Gurkhas. So everything is mechanized and moving up. The Humbers with the HMGs on them also pretty nice. Again, inexperience hurts them a little bit because when you're moving, you're inexperienced, you're potentially getting pinned rather easily, right? So you're shooting on sevens, but yeah, well, you unload the Gurkhas and then they'll sit there, rally, and for one turn and then shoot, I think. I understand why you don't want the artillery observer here, even though the British artillery observer is really good, because
It's
everything
really
here can
good.
get pinned, right? Um, and you are going to be pinned. I think the company commander needs to go into the LVT along with two Gurkha sections,
Hmm.
and then
Okay.
just
Yeah, that makes
have that
sense.
as a huge bomb because then he'll give his command to the Gurkhas inside the LVT. So when you want to charge out, you don't even need of an atom then because you got 4+ to your morale.
Yeah. So the characteristic I'm going to take for this is blood curdling charge,
Yeah,
so that they won't take incoming fire.
yeah,
And I really don't care if the enemy swings first because they're only swinging with half.
yeah. Most of the time, the Gurkhas will win those close combats anyway. It's a matter of actually getting them into those close combats. That's the tricky part now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this list. I really like
Thank
this list. Um, so this was one version of what you wanted to bring.
Yep.
I think this list needs to deploy centrally because you can always
Mm.
because everything is mechanized, you can move to one flank, and then like the opponent will typically try and mirror you. If you deploy centrally, he will typically try and do the same, and then you can just push everything towards one flank and outflank him basically with your whole force in one go. You could even have some of it in outflank, the LVT with the company commander in outflank, +4
Yeah.
to enter the board, everything but a 12, and then just rush him down the back line straight into your enemy's back line. And I mean, the LVT, that's 18 inches, and then next turn you can move 9 inches, shoot, and unload all the Gurkhas, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a really good rush army, a really good army that can change flanks for me. How do you feel about it? What were your thought process when you built this?
Uh, yeah, it was mainly just to protect the Gurkhas while I push them up, and then
Yeah,
also even for objectives. Gurkhas are really hard to get off objectives, and
yeah,
so once you claim them, you're pretty much going to keep them.
yeah, yeah. Because otherwise, you're going to the enemy is going to have to try and shoot you off with indirect HE or something like that, and he may not
Yeah,
have all that as soon as you start shooting him, right? Yeah,
right.
right. Let's look at the other one. And this
Okay.
is another British platoon 23 order dice. Talk
Yeah,
us through it.
yeah. So this one's a little different. This is all paratroopers,
Mm,
and they have forward observers. Um, so slightly higher order dice count. So I've got 2 7-man paratroopers, um, and then one with a light machine gun for a little firepower.
mm,
And these guys would be good for holding objectives too because they're stubborn,
yeah.
and you have to kill every last man pretty much to get them off of an objective.
Mm. Again, the company
So
commander.
yep, company commander, and then we have forward first of 2 forward artillery observers
Yeah,
because if one's good, you bring two.
of course. Of course you do.
uh, yeah. So then the anti-tank rifle team.
Mm,
Um, I think I'd have more of these if I could.
yeah.
And then another lieutenant with this is the recce platoon.
Mm,
So I have one 5-man paratroopers with submachine guns. So that'll be my push unit.
yep.
Forward artillery observer, and another anti-tank rifle team. And then I have 3 vehicles that have recce in this platoon.
So white
So I have
scout
a
cars.
white scout car, and this is the one that the company commander rides in
Mm,
this list.
mm,
Yeah. The LVT is just a gunship.
yeah.
So, and it has all of them.
Yeah.
It
Of
has,
course.
yeah, all
Of course
4.
it is.
Yeah. And
And the
then I
truck.
have a truck. Now, this is where the submachine gun guys are going to go in. And
Mm,
then the recce will allow them to survive,
yeah.
push up, and jump out. I might even outflank with them.
Yeah. Put a company commander in with them
But a company,
and outflank. Yeah.
yep, yep,
Again, though, it doesn't need to have recce for me. I would just
yeah,
put it into the rifle platoon, I think.
hmm,
And then an armored platoon again.
yep. So there's a Humber.
Mm,
And then in this one, I have a recce Jeep. I used one last weekend and it seemed to work pretty well as long as you hold your fire, make
mm,
sure you don't get shot at so
yeah.
that you can recce out of the way. And then I have a Jeep with a heavy machine gun. Or is there one
Mm,
in there? Nope. Okay, no, I don't. I thought I had one in this list, but I don't.
okay.
Yeah.
Then
Heavy
it's
weapons
heavy
platoon.
platoon. Yeah.
Now here I
Light mortar,
have,
light mortar, light mortar. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I bring them regular here because I'm using my forward artillery observers to spot for them.
Okay.
Yeah. And
And a
then
Pier
another
team
PI
again and a Jeep for that.
and a
I
Jeep.
like it.
Yep.
Again. Um, I like the using the recce platoon to access a relatively cheap forward artillery observer because you're not spending that extra point, but you are taking a lot of infantry up here, so you might as well have bought a second rifle platoon. But then you use the you gain access to recce, which is why you do it, and so I understand it on these two, the scout cars here. Again, I would ideally want these to be regular, I think. Um, unless you're just going to use the buffalo as sitting in the back line, being a gun platform, shooting everything that moves, which, you could also do
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
this is also a list that really makes the enemy waste turns, isn't it? Because you get hit with observers 4 times by this list. So that'll at least be 2 turns where you're pinned out of your brains and you need to rally everything. So and then
Yeah, plus
during
the LVT split and fire 4 ways. That's
yeah,
more pins.
it is, and you could pin people out, but that's why I would want it to be regular, because you want to be able to be more or less sure of those hits, so you can be sure of those pins, right? It's the hits that matter, not the kills as such, because if a unit gets hit twice by one of those artillery bombardments, that's potentially 6 pins, and then you can deliver extra pins, spread them out. Yeah, you could pin stuff out with this. And of course helped by the airborne recce jeep here. That can also pin out people. And then the light mortars, as soon as your artillery bombardment lands, they can all start zeroing in on everything that's like standing there, being forced into rallying. That's pretty clever as well. I like that. So this has much more of a gunline feel for me than the other list,
Yeah.
although you still have that push element of having a few mechanized vehicles and then something that they can push up, veterans they can push up onto objectives. Um, right. Randy's just signing stuff here while we talk. I also like the light machine gun here. It works really well because that can stay back and shoot as well.
Just
Company commander,
extra
what is that
range.
going to do? Sorry? Yeah.
Oh, the company commander. So just the snap twos ability and the morale bonus, I think, is huge.
It is. It means that you're very unlikely to miss a morale test. Again, I think I would put him in the Buffalo. I mean, because the
Yeah.
Buffalo is just this big, and he now counts as being from the edge of that, so you gain like an extra 2 inch or something like that on top of the 12 inches he already has. That's a huge area of command. I don't think that the truck leads recce again, but because it's just a transportation for those SMG guys, right? Then it's not going to do anything after that. So basically, I think this comes down to one question, Randy. Do you feel aggressive, or do you feel like sitting back and shooting your enemy to bits?
Yeah. Yes, I'd really like to play the Gurkhas, honestly. But
Yeah.
and if they don't work out, I guess I'll find out at Siege, right?
Yeah, I guess you will. I think I would try out the Gurkhas as well. I'm not in total agreement with you in that they wouldn't benefit from an artillery observer, but I think that having them mechanized as you do here, it's really a callback for me. When I started playing Gurkhas, I mechanized everything, right, or motorized them. At least I put them in trucks quite often. And then I sort of stumbled on the LVT and mechanized from there, and that push of having just 2 units, 3 units potentially of Gurkhas that you can push to one section of the battlefield, unload, and then that is absolutely yours because no one can actually get them out. That's very strong. I think you should clump up objectives, like if you can. I know some tournaments the TO like puts them out, but if you can clump up 3 objectives pretty close to each other, 12.5 inch from each other in a triangle,
Yeah.
I think you should do that because the LVT can go in the center and then the Gurkhas can unload basically on each of them. Yeah. So will you come back and tell us how you did for
Yeah. Sure will. Sure will.
right? Anything else you need to ask here? Or no? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Right. Randy, oh, sorry, people write in the comments, what do you think Randy should use? How do you think he should use it? And
Yes,
do you have any good suggestions for him? Comments, please. That would be really
please.
cool.
Yeah.
Randy, good luck. And yeah, I hope to see you in Warzone someday, but still on my to-do list, but not this year, at least.
Not this year. Okay.
Not this year.
Yeah, we've got a couple European players coming. That's what John said. So I'm not
Right.
sure who, but yeah.
We will hope. It's one of the things that, like, I've been looking at going to a US tournament for a couple of years now. And since I'm not making like a gazillion dollars out of this YouTube thing, so I'm saving up money to do that. It is for a European, it is expensive, just cost of living and stuff. So it does turn into a little bit of an expensive hobby, this, doesn't it? How much traveling do you need to do to get to Siege and Warzone? Is it at driving distance for you? Yeah.
Both of them are like 3 hours apiece, so
Oh,
easy peasy.
that's manageable, especially for an American.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Right. Randy, thank you so much for tuning in, and
Thanks for
I'll
having
talk
me
to you
on.
afterwards.
Cheers.